All right, let's get right into it. We all have those nagging, negative thoughts about ourselves, don't we? The ones that feel like absolute, undeniable facts. Well, what if I told you that some of your strongest, most painful beliefs might not be true at all? Today, we're going to explore how to become a scientist of your own mind.
You know the ones, it could be this, or maybe for you it's, I'm a failure, or I'm just not good enough. We all have these deeply held ideas, what therapists call core beliefs. And they don't just feel like opinions, do they? They feel like fundamental laws of the universe, as true as gravity.
But here's a really powerful idea. What if we stop treating these thoughts as facts that are set in stone? What if, instead, we start treating them like theories, like hypotheses that we can actually take out and test? This one little shift in perspective, well, it's the key to unlocking a powerful way to change your brain.
So, to understand how we can test our beliefs, we first have to get a handle on how they run our lives. The core idea behind cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is that our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors are all tangled up in this constant feedback loop. You have a negative thought, that leads to a negative feeling, which then makes you act in a certain way, which, you guessed it, just reinforces that original thought.
And right at the heart of that loop are our core beliefs. These are the big ones, the global, rigid ideas we have about who we are. Think of them like a filter or a pair of glasses you don't even know you're wearing. They color how you see everything. So if you believe you're not good enough, you're going to notice every little mistake and just brush off your successes, constantly finding evidence that proves your own belief right.
Now, I'm sure you've heard the advice, just think differently, or be more positive. And if you've ever actually tried to do that, you know it's not that simple. Trying to argue with a core belief using just logic, it often feels like you're trying to stop a tidal wave with your bare hands. It just doesn't work.
And the research totally backs this up. As the source material puts it, just arguing with our thoughts, these verbal techniques, they're usually not enough to create any deep, profound change. These beliefs are just so deeply wired into us that a simple internal debate almost never wins. Our emotions and old habits are just too powerful.
So what's the alternative? Well, instead of getting stuck in that frustrating debate inside our heads, we shift from arguing to testing. We take our thoughts out of our head and into the real world to collect actual, tangible data. This is where we go from being a prisoner of our thoughts to becoming a scientist who studies them.
And the main tool we're going to use for this is a real cornerstone of CBT. It's called the behavioral experiment. This is how we put our own beliefs under the microscope. What I absolutely love about this formal definition are the words planned experiential activities. See, this isn't about just doing something random. It's a structured process, specifically designed to gather new information. And the goal is simple, to see if your unhelpful beliefs actually hold up when they're faced with real-world evidence.
And this really gets to the heart of the mindset shift. You stop relying only on your subjective and often distorted feelings, and you start making judgments based on data that you personally collect. You literally become an evidence-based scientist of your own life.
Okay, I know this might sound a little bit abstract, so let's ground it in a real-world example from the research to see exactly how this whole process works.
Every good experiment follows a clear process. It all starts with identifying the specific belief you want to test. From there, you design the experiment, and this is crucial. You write down your prediction for what's going to happen. You even plan ahead for things that might go wrong. Then, you run the test. And finally, you review the data to draw a new conclusion.
So, let's meet John. John has insomnia, and his target belief is that he's totally stuck worrying in bed. He thinks it's just this unavoidable thing that happens to him. So he and his therapist come up with an experiment. For 3 nights, he's going to actively replace his worrying with a technique called savoring, where he focuses really intensely on positive memories from that day. Now this is the most important part, John's prediction. This is his hypothesis, and as you can see, he's pretty skeptical. He thinks, sure, this savoring stuff might feel a little better, but there's no way it's going to actually help me sleep. This is the exact belief that he's about to put to the test. And here's the data he collected. Just look at the pleasantness row. It goes from a 6 out of 10 to a 7, then all the way to an 8. But the real story is sleep quality. He rated it a 5, then bam, an 8, then a 6. Now, it wasn't a perfect fix every single night, but the evidence was crystal clear. His sleep was better on 2 of the 3 nights, which directly challenged his prediction that it wouldn't help at all.
So the crucial point here is what John learned from his own data. He concluded that savoring made him feel calmer and way less anxious. Even though he still had some trouble sleeping, he discovered that worrying wasn't unavoidable. He found a new, more helpful behavior, and the data he collected himself proved it was possible.
So we've seen how this works in practice. But what's actually going on at a deeper biological level? Why is collecting new data through experience so much more powerful than just thinking about it?
I mean, this is the big question, right? Is this just some temporary fix, a little mental trick, or can these small, focused experiments actually lead to real, lasting change?
The answer is a resounding yes, and it's because these actions don't just change your mind, they physically change your brain. And that's not just a metaphor, it is a biological reality. This incredible ability is called neuroplasticity. Your brain is not some fixed, static organ that you're stuck with. It is constantly reorganizing itself, forming new neural pathways based on your experiences, your actions, and yes, your thoughts. Every single time you run one of these behavioral experiments, you are actively participating in rewiring your own brain.
And we have concrete proof of this. In one absolutely fascinating study, people with social anxiety disorder were treated with CBT. They took brain scans before and after the treatment, and the results? The amygdala, that's the brain's little threat detection center, had physically shrunk in volume and had become less sensitive. Their brains literally became less reactive because their new experiences proved that their old beliefs were wrong.
So, we've looked at the theory, we've seen the practice, and we've checked out the science behind it. Now, the final step is turning this powerful lens on yourself.
This is not about wishful thinking. It's about recognizing that you have the power to be a scientist in your own life. You can design experiments, just like John did, to collect new, undeniable evidence about who you are and what you're really capable of.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What is that one unhelpful fact about yourself that's always held you back? The one that feels like it's an absolute, undeniable truth. What if it isn't? What experiment could you run, maybe even starting today, to find out what's really true?